as I welcome, I want you to imagine all the wonderful times we have had in previous editions of Landlinked Zambia itself, and then to the webinars that we put together for us to get ready for the events coming up. Today we have one of those pre-event webinars, and it is going to be quite an interesting one. We will be discussing the issue of transport corridors and how we can turn or transform transport corridors into economic corridors. We don't just move things, we make it really benefit all the stakeholders across. And this pre-event webinar is powered by VNV, the supporting partner for this event, and brought to you by Landlinked Zambia 2025, which is powered by AfCFTA Conference. I am not seeing Chimwemwe in the room, but for housekeeping, please note that you have the opportunity, each and every one of us, to raise your hands. Please familiarize yourself with the platform. We are also transcribing, so those who require this particular uh, webinar in terms of a different language, you can select the particular language icons. We've enabled you to use various AIs to take your notes, so please use as it may be. Allow me to use this opportunity to currently, we still don't have Chimomenko. So anybody from AfCFTA? Yeah, we know there's a little bit of some throwback out there. We have the team from AfCFTA. All right, let's jump in straight then. And we will have the opportunity right now to bring on board our very own moderator for today. Now, our moderator today is a phenomenal woman. She has been at the forefront of this industry for a while, and she moderates a lot of conversations. She curates actually conversations and makes sure that as we go on discussing pertinent issues for economy, we are able to bring light to those difficult situations. Paulina and myself have had the wonderful pleasure of managing stages, and it is truly a pleasure to have moderator sessions for today. My name is Victor Mensah. I'm your host, but this is where my job ends. And I'll hand you over now to Paulina Somo for this particular program. Paulina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Victor. It's very nice to be here this afternoon. I'm based in Zambia. It will be nice to know where everyone else is joining us from. We are having a very nice rainy day today in Zambia. Rain is something that doesn't come often, so we are all feeling really blessed. Thank you so much to all of you for making the time to join us this afternoon as we begin to build up to the Landlinked Zambia 2025 conference, which will be taking place on the 10th and the 11th of April here in Lusaka, Zambia. So as Victor has explained to us, the theme of this year's conference is how to transform transport corridors into economic corridors. And today, in this edition of the pre-conference webinar, we have speakers from Tanzania, Mozambique, and South Africa, representing the Central Corridor, the Beira Corridor, and the North-South Corridor. So today they'll discuss the topic while unpacking business investment opportunities along their respective transport corridors. So before we get into the discussion, I'd like to just check in and introduce our speakers. I'll just run through them before we start our discussion. First up, we will have Mr. Emmanuel Nchangase. Emmanuel is the head of commercial at Grindrod Logistics Africa, bringing over 27 years of experience in the shipping and logistics industry. He has held various management roles across South Africa and other African countries as well. Our second speaker, Mr. Besencio Vilanculo. Besencio is the president of the Freight Forwarding Association of Mozambique. He holds a degree in human resources and management and owns 2 companies, Business Logistics and Services and Global Marine Services. We also have with us today Mr. Edward John Urio. Edward is the board chairman of CAS Freight Limited and serves as the president of the Tanzania Freight Forwarders Association. He also holds the position of second vice president at the Federation of East African Freight Forwarders Association and the vice president at the Federation of Clearing and Forwarding Associations of Southern Africa. And then our 4th speaker is Mr. Benson Tembo. Benson serves as the Secretary General of the Petroleum Transporters Association of Zambia and is the chairman of the Copperbelt Open Truckers Association. Currently, he's the director of Long Distance Petroleum Limited and a partner and director at Zamclan Logistics and Transport Limited. He is based in Dola Copperbelt Province. So those are our speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Their profiles, speak for themselves, as you have heard. Each of our speakers will have 7 minutes for their presentations. We will then have a question and answer session after they have all spoken. So please make sure that you write down all your questions throughout their presentations. And at the end of it all, then we will have, hopefully we'll be able to get to all your questions, but that will be depending on time. But please write down your questions so that when we get to that time, we are able to take your questions. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can all hear me. I've seen a few messages of people saying that the sound is breaking up, but for now, I think we are okay. So we're gonna start with our discussion, and I will now hand over to our first speaker, Mr. Emmanuel Mchangase. Emmanuel, welcome.
Good afternoon, our dear moderator, and good afternoon to everyone. I am Emmanuel, and I am originally from South Africa, but I am currently speaking to you in Uganda, Kampala. I'm on a business trip. Thank you for having me, and my sincere apologies for not being able to see me. There seem to be some connectivity issue with my camera. Even my Jabra speaker is not working, so I'm speaking from the laptop itself. Thank you for having me. I think I'll get right straight to it. So the topic of the day is, how do we transform the transport corridor into economic corridor? I think first and foremost is understanding the definition of each of the two. Secondly is to understand the relationship between the two and the stages of, call it economic stages of transitioning from transport corridors into economic corridors. I think, needless to say, that economic corridor is the pinnacle of a corridor operation, and there needs to be some activity that needs to take place for us to move from one to the other. And these activity relate around 3 issues, which is number 1, what they call is hard component, and the other one is soft component. But before we get to that, maybe let's just unpack the transport corridor in its definition and instrument and what it exactly means. So by definition, transport corridor is a route that physically links an area or a region. What do we mean by that? Particularly on a north-south corridor, is a transport corridor will be physical infrastructure that connects South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Zambia and DRC. What do we need for that to work? We need physical infrastructure, things like rail, road, and signaling systems that enable all the 4 countries, if I can use that example, to connect with one another. Why is that important? It is important because if all those elements works together, it enables a seamless transportation of cargo and people from port into landlocked countries and vice versa. Then the next question is, how do we then transform from transport corridor into economic corridor? Economic corridor is the highest form of corridor stages, where at its top, highest level, its economic corridor is defined as a corridor that attracts investment and generate economic activities and benefit the surrounding region. It's the point whereby everyone in that region or the corridor node doesn't necessarily need to be in the transport activity, but can benefit economically by being in the corridor or by being placed adjacent to the corridor, meaning you can create employment and you can people can earn a living through by just being next to the corridor. What are other activities that are mentioned at the highest level of the economic corridor? It's when governments start putting in infrastructures like what is best known as economic free trade zone. Others, they call it free economic zone. Others, they call it free economic territories. Others, they call it specialized economic zone, where in all these nodes, there can be activities that can take place to beneficiate the cargo that is transiting through the corridor and increase the value of the cargo in transit to or from destination. In so doing, you're creating an employment and you're increasing the value of the cargo while it's going through to the port or it's coming from the port into destination. I think if we look specifically at the mineral export, that's exactly what we're talking about, where we move the mineral export from the mine into the economic zone. We do beneficiation in the economic zone, and then we move the cargo to the port, having added some benefit to the cargo rather than taking it out as pure minerals, because we have an opportunity to, number one, gain skill, number two, improve the level of living for the people in that region, and then export semi-finished good. Africa in general has been talking about it for quite some time, but we have not gotten to the level where we are able to execute. We are starting to see the same happening in Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe is saying, you're not going to take my lithium without doing beneficiation. And that's an opportunity to unlock economic growth in each of the countries. And also it allows us to focus on corridor improvement through maintenance and rehabilitation so that the cargo can get from point A to point B. If the cargo can move from point A to point B, what the next level of economic corridor is, we start seeing passenger from a trade tourism point of view using the very same corridor to do sightseeing, and that creates an even bigger economic opportunity for the community living along the transport corridor. In a nutshell, that's my understanding and observation of transforming from transport corridor into an economic corridor. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, sticking to time very nicely there. I hope that we are taking our notes for questions. The question and answer session will happen after each speaker has made their presentation. So we're going to swiftly move on to our next speaker. Let's just check if he is with us already. I know he was having issues with logging in. Mr. Besencio Vilanculo, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Today I'm speaking from Nacala Port. It's one of the corridor. So I won't repeat myself because my colleague he did define very well the meaning of transport and economic corridors. Just coming to the practical situation of our corridors in Mozambique into the region, first of all, I would like to say that we have 3 main corridors in Mozambique, which is Maputo, Beira, and Nacala. But for Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and DRC, we are more interested on Beira and Nacala corridors. Talking about the transport corridors, yes, it's all about what we have as the infrastructures, how our roads are done, what are the conditions of our roads. The rail connectivity is what we have through Nacala to Malawi. I think we can say that 90% of cargo out of Nacala port is going through rail and 10% by road, and which is opposite of Beira, where we have 95% of cargo out of Beira by road and 5% by rail. Also, for us to complement that road infrastructures, rail, we need to have also the technology to complement the useful of these infrastructures, so that we can say our transport corridors are allowing the movement of the cargo in and out. And to make sure that these transport corridors can turn into the economic corridor, we have in Beira, mostly in Beira, the facilities inside of the port. If you see some years back, we used to have a very few fuel tankers inside the port. Nowadays, we have increased the capacity, means we are open and we have attracted more investments. Also, we have a huge number of bonded warehouses outside of the port. In other places, we call free zones. Yes, we have a very specific zone, which is a free zone, mostly for cargo, which can come to that particular area to be transformed and then sold locally or outside. But for a corridor perspective, or for region, SADC region perspective, we have bonded warehouses which are increasing the capacity of handling cargo in and out of Beira. So we have a number of 45 bonded warehouses around Beira Port, which are coming to increase the capacity of Beira Port. Out of that, we do understand that when we are talking about economic corridors, should not be limited to increase or to create only jobs around the port area, but along the corridor, people must see and feel the benefit of being on the corridors, on the corridor. We are talking about changing life or impacting the life on a positive way of people along the corridor, from Beira up to Chanida, from Chanida up to Lusaka, from Lusaka all the way up to the border, or let's say Kitwe, And then another hand, from Beira up to Forbes, Mashpanda with Zimbabwe, and from Zimbabwe until Chirundu, from Chirundu, Kafue. So people along those corridors, they must feel the impact or benefit of them being included along the road. Means the business must also impact their lives, not only for them to stay and see goods being transported in and out. So in that way, in Mozambique, we have there's a project in Mozambique with customs where we are planning, we are open also for investors to come and create the mandatory stops. Means we don't want anyone to stop along the road because of safety, also in terms of accidents, security. So if you come and invest on the mandatory stops where the trucks can go there and stop, that it's also something that is impacting the life, and that we can see people that are already getting some jobs out of Beira, but along the corridor, you can see even the road rehabilitation from Tete to Chanida also brought some other business opportunities. So this is what we do understand as economic corridors that attract more investment, share the benefits to all people along the corridors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bilangkulo. Also finished in a record time, nice one. Now we're going to move on to Mr. Edward John Oriol. Mr. Oriol, are you there?
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon from Tanzania, Dar es Salaam.
Welcome, sir. It's nice to have you with us. You may go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my name's Edward John Urio. I am the president of the Association of Freight Forwarders in Tanzania, but I also serve as the second vice president of the Federation of East African Freight Forwarders Association, and I also serve as the vice president for the Federation of Clearing and Forwarding Association of Sovereign Africa. I'm glad to be invited to be part of the speakers on this motion today. And good thing my colleagues, speakers who had started have already defined in terms of the economics and the corridors. So to save time, I will just straight away go to the topic. The topic on session is how to transform transport corridor into economic corridor. I will concentrate on the central corridor, where it moves from Dar es Salaam port to Lusaka. The central corridor has two routes from Tanzania. Tanzania, as you guys know, we have a major port in Dar es Salaam, where it serves more than 8 landlinked countries. And our most busiest corridor is the central corridor, as well, which connects to Lusaka. On the railway routes, we have a rail which is from Dar es Salaam to Lusaka, which is approximately 1,524 kilometers, and it takes 2 days, and it's operated by Tazara. Tazara is Tanzania Zambia Railway. We also have the road routes, which Dar es Salaam to Lusaka is approximately 1,944 kilometers, where trucks take about 28 hours to 30 hours to move from Dar es Salaam to Lusaka. And the good thing we have as well is that a lot of the NTBs which were hindering this corridor have been shied away by different authorities. We have the NTB group, whereby it deals with the non-tariff barriers. How to turn these corridors to be economic? Transforming Dar es Salaam to Lusaka route from a mere transport corridor into a thriving economic corridor requires strategic planning and coordinated efforts. We have a number of items which we had outlined, which we believe that if they are taken into consideration, they might be effective and turn the corridor into an economic one. One of the most important factor is the infrastructure development. As we have these two routes, we should also see on how we can modernize this railway infrastructure so that it can improve the efficiency, safety, and the connectivity. But as well, we can see into the intermodal transport hub. That is, we should develop hubs where different mode of transport, that is road, rail, and air, can connect and facilitate smooth cargo transfer. On this hub, I can give an example of Kapurimposhi, whereby we believe if Kapurimposhi can be, some investment can be done for it to be a proper operating terminal, it can really be an economic impact on this corridor, because Kapiri can be a center of the discharging and distributing cargo which originates from Dar es Salaam port, and which can be destined to different parts of Zambia and the neighboring DRC and Zimbabwe. Kapirimposhi can be a hub whereby once goods have been transferred from Dar es Salaam port to that point, it can be easily distributed for goods going to Ndola, Lusaka, going to Lubumbashi through through Kasumbalesa, and even going to Zimbabwe. We also need to cater number two. Number two is that we also need to see if we can have some special economic zones, whereby we can create special economic zones to the route to attract industries, offering incentives like tax breaks and simplify regulations. We can also consider on having industrial parks, whereby house manufacturing and processing and logistics company can have these hubs and economically bring a very good impact in the trade going through this corridor. A third factor which we were trying to consider is the trade facilitation. We can streamline the customs procedures and operations so that they can interface between countries which will be using this corridor to implement effective customs procedures and reduce delays and costs at the border posts, such as Tunduma. From us, from Tanzania, Tunduma is our largest exit point, whereby cargo moving to the southbound countries and some of the land-linked countries go through the exit of Tunduma border and entrance of Nakonde border from Zambia part. But we can also introduce e-logistics platform, develop digital platforms for tracking shipments and managing logistics, improving transparency and efficiency. A fourth factor which we think might bring an impact is the investment in the agriculture and the agro processing. When you look at these agricultural hubs, we can establish hubs for the collection, processing, and distributing of agricultural products. We can also add value by promoting agro-processing industries, like the raw materials from agro products, which can be turned into end products and be exported from these hubs and add value on them. The fifth factor which we can raise is the renewable energy. Investing in the solar, wind, and hydroelectric projects along the corridor to ensure reliable and sustainable energy supply for the business. We all know that energy issues in Africa has been a big issue. Lucky to Tanzania, who are privileged to host the African Energy Forum and AfCFTA, which was here from 27th to 28th, and the head of states have really deliberated on this, and I think a proper budget will be established to ensure that this is overcome. Sixth factor is the tourism development. We should also consider on tourist attractions, promote tourism by developing and marketing attractions along the route, such as the national parks, the culture sites, and the scenic landscapes. Tourist facilitation, develop hotels, lodges, and other facilities to cater for the tourists, boosting the local economy on different parts of the route, which will also create employment and raise the living standards of particular citizens along this corridor. The seventh factor, which we were looking into, is training and capacity building. We need skills development, invest in training programs to develop the skills of the local workforce, ensure they can meet demands of emerging industry. But as well, we need to support the entrepreneurs, provide support for the small and the medium entrepreneurs through training, mentorship, and access to finance. The eighth and maybe the last factor, which maybe can assist. The eighth factor, I got about two more. The eighth factor is the regional integration and cooperation. Economic blocks, strengthen the regional economic blocks like the South African Development Country SADC to promote cooperation and economic integration. We also consider on engaging joint ventures and partnership between business partners from two different countries, for example, Tanzania and Zambia, so that they can capitalize on the opportunities we have along the corridor. The ninth factor is the sustainability practices, environmental conservation, implement measures to protect the environment and promote sustainability practice in agriculture, mining, and industry. Corporate social responsibilities, encourage businesses to encourage incorporate social responsibility CRS activities benefiting local communities along the corridor. And the last but not least is the innovation and technology. We all know that in the current world we are, when you talk about improving or turning a corridor into economic corridor, we cannot leave behind the innovation and the technology parts. Technology hubs, establish technology hubs to promote innovative and support startups in various sectors. Improve the digital infrastructure, including internet access, mobile connectivities to support business, operate, and communication. With these few remarks, I think, plus the discussion we shall have from the other participants in this webinar, we shall be able to see on how together we can turn these corridors into an economic one. These initiatives, if implemented effectively, can turn Dar es Salaam to Lusaka route into a vibrant economic corridor, fostering growth, investment, and prosperity in the region. Thank you very much. I beg to submit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edward John Uriel. Thank you very much for your remarks on this topic. We are now going to move to our fourth speaker, Mr. Benson Tembo from Ndola in the Copperbelt province. Benson, are you there?
Good afternoon, everybody here.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. We are so grateful once again as Petroleum Transporters Association of Zambia to be part of this webinar that discusses the transformation of Zambia's transport corridor into economic corridor. I want to state from the onset that I will adopt the definitions that have already been ably explained by earlier speakers. That's how the corridors sit and what is supposed to be on that corridor. From Zambia's perspective, my discussion will center on Zambia being the transport and logistics hub in the region. We've heard submissions from Tanzania, from Mozambique, from South Africa, and even if we were to hear from Namibia, Botswana, and any country, you hear that the direction will be Zambia. So Zambia is quickly transforming into the transport and logistics hub in the region. And I say so because of the demand that is attached to the strategic location of Zambia. Zambia is the transit route into Congo DR, and we've all seen and witnessed the rapid growth of the mining sector in Zambia, and using the corridor that we are promoting today to be transformed into the economic corridor. Zambia, having identified its location, the strategic location, for many years, we've been having challenges with the infrastructure. If you look at the Nakonde Tunduma border before today, the Kasakatiza Chanida border, Kirundu border, the Kazungula border, the famous Kasumbalesa border. Now we have Sakanya Mokambo borders. All these borders were not what they are supposed to be. The current government in Zambia has identified the potential of these border facilities, and as I make this presentation, I can safely boast of the massive infrastructure that are happening along these stretches. If you look at the road between Chingola into Kasumbalesa, the road now is a masterpiece, and the government has gone further to transform or to change the Kasumbalesa border facility into a modern facility that will also have a hotel and a shopping mall, meaning that the transformation from Zambia's point of view is already in motion. When you look at the Sakanya border, the road between Zambia, Ndola on the Copper Belt to Sakanya and Mokambo through Mufulira was practically impassable. The government, having identified the potential of these roads, have put a contractor on site. The contractor is already doing the roads and the facilities at the border, because looking at the Sakanya part on the Congo DR, they've done a masterpiece. So Zambia is building equally a similar facility to have a similar part on the roads. Zambia also identified the Beira corridor through Kasakatiza, Chanida border. From Kasakatiza into Tete through to Beira, the road was very bad. From Chanida into Katete, equally the roads were bad. The government identified these roads and already there is a contractor on site. On the dark corridor, the central corridor, you will see activities happening at the at Nakonde border, and through the corridor, there is a brand new road from Chinsari into Nakonde, which was very notorious before. So all I'm trying to explain here is that Zambia already is in motion to actualize this transport corridor into economic corridor. The infrastructure part is in motion, where now we hope to see a way in motion right at Nakonde, so that we speed up the movements. What we have seen along these corridors is that the officers or government employees, those in government institutions, have not been inducted to what we want to achieve at the end of the day. We are seeing a lot of laziness. We are seeing a lot of people not seeing transport as an emergency. We need to change the mindset of the people working to clear and facilitate the free movement. What we have seen along the corridors, though we boast of having identified the challenges in infrastructure, was in trade and services. Zambia imports 100% of its finished petroleum products, be it petrol, diesel, jet A1, kerosene, black oil. Zambia imports 100% today. And apart from the pipeline, which runs from Dar es Salaam into Ndola, the most probable and efficient facility we will lean on is transport. This is where infrastructure has been enhanced in construction. The trade and services we are seeing along these corridors are not favoring the local Zambian service providers. Zambia has opened its trade where transporters from the region, service providers from the region are able to register in Zambia. Our expectation has always been that in order for us to see the full benefit of these corridors, we need to see citizen participation or local Zambian participation in these corridors. That is how the transformation can be quickened. Unlike what is happening today, there are a lot of developments happening on these corridors. You know, there are a lot of economic activities happening at the ports because we traverse these ports every day, 24/7, because of the services and the commodities that we are getting through these corridors. We should not be spectators. We should be participants. And in order for us to participate, we need to change the international commercial terms along the corridor so that we can see the full participation of the locals. Along the corridor, through member states, our expectation is to see the harmonization of regulations. Harmonization of regulations. There is too much infringement or delays in the movement of cargo along the corridors. There are too many roadblocks. There are too many unnecessary delays. So we want to transform these transport corridors into economic corridors. But then we are delaying the process by allowing unnecessary checkpoints along the way. The regulations must be harmonized. You see that as per Zambian regulation, in the fuel transport subsector, a tanker carrying fuel can only move from 06 hours to 18 hours. In Mozambique, a tanker carrying fuel can move from 06 to 18 hours. But in other countries like Tanzania, you find that the tanker will move even after 18 hours. So those particular service providers, when they enter Zambia, they do not look at the regulations in Zambia. So they can move beyond the stipulated time because they are not licensed by the Energy Regulation Board of Zambia. So we need to harmonize in order for us to actualize the full benefit of these corridors being economic corridors. We have seen that while infrastructure is being upgraded along the corridors, we have left out the benefit of a driver. We need to put facilities like truck parks, truck stops. These truck parks must have all the amenities. We take pride in South Africa when you are on the North-South corridor. The facilities there are superb. We hope to see these facilities along all the corridors. Security along the corridor is also another concern. How are we going to transform our transport corridors into economic corridors when we have thieves along these corridors? So the security wings in the region must participate in transforming these corridors into economic corridors. You will see that along these corridors, we don't have 24/7 breakdown services. We have breakdowns that are happening along the corridors that are causing accidents. We have accidents happening along these corridors where life could have been saved, but because there are no emergency services along the corridors, we are losing life. So in order for us to actualize this economic corridor dream, we need to have services along the corridors. The single payment system is another issue which must be extended to toll gates. We don't need to be stopping at each and every toll gate. This can be done right there at the border, the way we enjoy trips going into Wavis Bay. You do your payments right at the border and you have your freeway. I think from my standpoint, I'll stop here to allow the discussion to flow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benson Tembo. You've said a mouthful there. Thank you. And that was our last speaker for today. Thank you so much to all four of our speakers, Mr. Emmanuel Changase, Mr. Besencio Bilanculo, and also Mr. Edward John Urio, and of course, Mr. Benson Tembo. I think you've really given us, we've started, this is a build-up to our main event. And I think it's important that we are starting to have the conversations now so we can start to understand where we are. I think our speakers have given us a sense of where we are, of where we need to go, and the possibilities of us for us to get there, and of course the challenges that are occurring in the various corridors, and of course just the solutions, some of the solutions. And I think this is a great place to start. We look forward to having more conversations like this. And I hope that those of you who are with us and have been listening, that you've jotted down your questions, because I'm now going to hand over to the floor for anyone who has questions. I see there are some comments that have come in the chat. I will be going through those just now. I'm not sure if any of you have been reading the chat, but we'll go through those as well. But please, just a show of a hand if you have a question for any of our speakers. Any questions? I'm looking for any hands that are up. While we wait for the questions, I'm just going to go to the chat, as there seems to have been a few comments coming from the chat that I think we can go through in case you haven't all seen them. We've got a message from Stephen Daly. Dear host and organizers, will there be an MOM from this meeting, and will the slides be shared post the meeting? We should be able to share the meeting with you because it was recorded, but we will confirm that just before we close, Stephen. And then we've got a message from Oscar Mula. My name is Oscar Mula from SA Company Sufficient Grace Trading, Pty Ltd. We do commodities trade in agriculture and mining. Okay, thank you for that introduction, Oscar Mula. Anyone needs to contact Oscar Mula, the information is in that chat. We've also got another message from Mari Penainen. CACC is operating in Kapiri Mposhi, linked to Tazara. DSM Corridor Group from Dar es Salaam is connecting with their terminal. Both companies deal with metals, mining, chemicals, and fertilizers. Okay, so just some introductions coming through from some people. There's a nice message from Muma Chipwende saying this is a brilliant way forward. I hope we can make submissions ahead to have tools that would aid in tracking and accountability. I just look forward to a system which will be open and allow stakeholders to track and provide information on the status of vehicles transiting through the country from various routes to their various exit points. This is an excellent platform and opportunity. I agree with that. It's an excellent way. We need to have these conversations, and hopefully it will go beyond just having the conversation and us implementing the strategies that we come up with and seeing results of improvement. A message from Penelope. I'm Penelope from South Africa. A question for Mr. Tembo. Mr. Tembo, this is a question for you. Can he please provide an update on the rail refurbishment or upgrade plans for the Tazara corridor? It has been reported that an MOU was signed between China, Zambia, and Tanzania to upgrade the rail corridor. Is he also able to speak on the planned Greenfield project to build a Zambian rail line as part of the Lobito corridor? Is the progress on the matter and his advice how to best obtain an update on key project milestones? Mr. Tembo, did you hear that question?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. You may address that one.
Yeah, we are very anxious as the service providers or stakeholders in Zambia for government's desire to revitalize the Tazara corridor or the Tazara rail. This has been dormant for a long time, and we have seen a government agency or putting so much urgency on the matter. And as of today, we were informed of a lot of progress, and very soon we'll be able to begin to see activities along the rail. And there were those meetings that happened in Dar es Salaam, the ones that happened in China. So the presidents of the two countries have been actively following. I've seen the minister is passionate about making this Tazara revitalization a reality. So we hope to get the official position from government. Just as we hope to get the official position from government on the lobby, just last week, pushing the same agenda. we have seen a lot of emphasis and urgency also attached to this particular development. So to see that the Lobito corridor and the revitalization of the Tazara corridor are actualized in good time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Tembo. We've got a question from Maria. Maria, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Good afternoon, and thank you. I hope I'm audible. Can you hear me?
You are.
Okay, I'm connected from Italy. I wrote in the chat that I'm a representative for Italy Africa Business Week Forum, which is a diaspora-led forum working in conjunction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Italy and the International Agency for Development Cooperation. It's a pleasure for me to take this opportunity to invite the South African, the SADC companies under this theme, because this is exactly what the 8th edition of Italy Africa Business Week has tackled, which was from the 22nd to the 24th of January. We had the Italian government with its money, which is called the Mattei Plan for Africa, and these funds put available for any African projects like the one we're witnessing at the moment. And in particular, the Lobito Corridor has a fund, and there was a delegation from Italy which came to Zambia, Mr. Tembo. This is for you specifically. I would like you to take it up because that corridor has money, and if you contact Italy Africa Business Week through me as rep, we can see how to engage Congo, Angola, and the whole corridor, and the communities, especially the private sector. Interesting points that have come up. I'm really happy. Sorry to take your time. It's not a corridor, and it's not a question, but an invitation for Italy Africa Business Week Forum to be invited in April. We can come. We can come because this is something we're actually doing, promoting the business community on the continent, and the 8th edition is had actually attracted something like 600 participants. We had a lot of ministers from the continent. Take it up, please, as an invitation. And I've put my contacts in the chat. I'm happy to give a hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. Thank you for your comments. I'm also just gonna go through some other questions in the chat. Mr. Vilankulo, is the Nakala-Chipata railway line finally complete? Question to Mr. Vilankulo, and also Mr. Tembo, please confirm that SADC trucks traveling through Zambia do not need to be ERB or ZCSA registered. Mr. Tembo, you can answer that if Mr. Vilankulo has not heard the question.
ERB licenses Zambian registered trucks. ERB, or let me just say Zambia recognizes the mutual agreements that have been signed between member states. Therefore, we have mutual recognition of all the documents that are issued by relevant government institutions in the region. Therefore, it is not a requirement that SADC trucks will need ERB or ZAB certification for them to traverse the country. No, it's not a requirement.
Oh, okay.
But we have encountered challenges in other member states who requires that if we have to traverse their corridors, we need to get certification, especially in South Africa. So we cannot develop these corridors into economic corridors when we have such restrictions. So Zambia is open. We do the mutual recognition of the documents issued by competent authorities in those countries. We equally want them to recognize the documents issued by relevant institutions in Zambia for us to have that seamless flow.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Tembo. We'll go back to Mr. Vilankulo. There was a question for you, sir. Is the Nakala-Chipata railway line finally complete?
Yes, it's finally completed the connection on the ground, but there are some technical works to verify the line so that it can start receiving the first train into Chipata. That is expected to be concluded, and receiving the first train after 5 days from, let's say, from January was a plan of December. So we are saying end of February, we may start receiving the trains in Chipata. And taking this time to announce that Nacala is the deepest port, and it's very efficient in terms of movement and very competitive in terms also of freight, because the rail service is very cheaper than the road service. I'm not saying, I'm also a transporter, I drive my own trucks. I'm not saying we should stop using a road, but we are saying in terms of efficiency of rail, because it's something that we're looking since back, and we are now connecting from Nacala to Zimbabwe. Like we are loading from Nacala and offloading the cargo in Tete, and from Tete using trucks into Zimbabwe, which also is very good to decongest our roads, which some of them they still need more intervention. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that response. We will now take a question from Penelope. Penelope, you may ask your question.
Thank you, Paulina. Can you please confirm if you can hear me clearly?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I seem to be having some challenges with my video, so I'm also not clear if you can see some settings there. However, I just want to say thank you to Mr. Tembo for his response to my questions in the chat. So, the second part of the question that I don't think was answered was the issue of where can one get an update on key project milestones, because right now most information is just available online in terms of articles and the like. Even when you go to the official website for Tazara and Lobito, there seems to be a lacking of that information as to where are we, what are the plans, what are the timelines. So is there anybody that can assist with directing where one can find such information? Thank you.
Thank you, Penelope. Anyone of the speakers who can address Penelope's question?
I think from Zambia's position, or anything to do with the Lobito development can be communicated through the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, because they are up to date with the activities on the project.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm seeing a comment from John Payton. Interesting to see that there don't seem to be any government representatives from any regional country. I'm sure they could have useful information to add and discuss strategies for economic development along the transport corridors. Thank you for that, John. It's an ongoing conversation, John. This is our first discussion building up to the main event. We'll have another one before the main event. And at the main event, definitely, there surely will be some government representation. So please continue to follow as we build up to the main event. And we are also hoping to see you there. Let's go to another question. Nkwachi, you can ask your question. Hello, can you hear us?
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's breaking up a little bit. Just speak a little bit more.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's not very.
Hello,
clear.
are you able to hear me?
It's not very clear. It's not very clear, Nkwachi. Can you try maybe go in and out, or maybe try?
It's not very clear.
Can you hear us now? We are still struggling to hear you.
Let me try going in and out.
Yes.
And I'll ask my question again.
Yes, I think you can do that. All right, I'm just going to check for other questions while we wait for Nkwachi. I hope that he will be able to make it back. Another question, Mr. Tembo. Hey, your questions, you have a lot to deal with. Are there any plans to extend the Chipata-Nakala rail corridor towards the main line, i.e. Kapiri, Moshi, or Lusaka?
I think we are not competent to give update on that one. What we have seen is just the development of the Nakala corridor. From that end, going anywhere else, I think government would be in a position to give a direction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tembo. Raising government there as well. And yeah, hopefully we will hear from government representation as we move closer to the main event. We've got a comment here by Gad. Mozambican transporters are affected when their drivers are given only 90 accumulated days in a year to spend in Zambia. This affects all of us, while such a law doesn't apply in Mozambique. It has to be remembered that the drivers are delivering different products, including foods, medicines, and agriculture products, and different supplies that bring developments to Zambian countries. Anyone would like to address that one?
Yes, we had the bilateral meeting with Mozambique in December, where this issue came out strong. The authorities from Mozambique were carrying a message from the operators in Mozambique. I want to confirm that indeed, when going into Mozambique, we don't have any restrictions on the days. We used to have some challenges on the renewals or extensions of the days when the drivers overstay in the country, where they were required to travel back by bus or any means to the border and do the entry again. Now that issue has been sorted out. So the response from the government of Zambia was that the matter would be escalated through relevant government institutions so that we we can reciprocate the gesture that Mozambique has given our people. So we hope to get good results as we go towards a recap on the bilateral that we had with Mozambique. This matter is actively being considered because it is also our point of view. We do not want Mozambique to reciprocate in the manner they have reciprocated on the toll fees. We do not want them to reciprocate on the restriction on the days. So we are equally pushing government to reciprocate, to follow what Mozambique is doing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tembo. There's another one here by Isaac. I think it's, I think you can also answer this one. Tanzanian drivers must sleep in lodges when they are on Zambian side, not in the trucks, as it is not healthy, no toilets, but on the Tanzanian side, they use lodges. Is Zambia so tolerant? This is from Isaac. Mr. Tembo, anything on that one?
In my presentation, I talked about facilities. We needed to have organized way of parking these trucks in transit. We needed to have truck parks along the corridors. We have challenged the local authority in Zambia to respond to the need to have proper facilities along the corridor. Indeed, drivers do not need to sleep in trucks. Even if the trucks have those beds and what, we needed to see these drivers sleep in lodges. We are talking about transforming the corridor from a mere transport corridor to an economic corridor. So in order for us to actualize that, can the local authorities respond to the need to invite private sector to set up such facilities along the corridor so that we can do what the Tanzanians have done, where drivers will be enticed to sleep in better lodges than sleeping in trucks. We support that call, and this is a call which sits well with this agenda of transforming the transport corridor from a mere corridor to an economic corridor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tembo. All right, so we are reaching the end of our program. There are 3 questions that which I'm just going to go through now and see who can answer those before we close our discussion. The first one is, what strategies are being implemented to reduce congestion and improve efficiency at border posts like Chirundu and Kasumbalesa? And the second one, what funding opportunities exist for private companies looking to develop transport and logistics infrastructure in Zambia? And 3, what measures are being taken to improve the efficiency of cargo movement between South Africa and Zambia, particularly along key trade corridors such as the North-South corridor? So the first question, what strategies are being implemented to reduce the congestion and improve efficiency at the border posts like Chirundu and Kasumbalesa? We can start with that one.
I think from our standpoint, we have seen Zambia Revenue Authority promoting an agenda to have pre-clearance being given a priority. Importers of commodities must pre-clear the goods so that as the goods reach the border, they don't delay. I'm sure you've heard our president calling for these one-stop border posts transforming into non-stop border posts, because we have technology today. Why should we be having these delays? So from ZRA point of view, the pre-clearing will be one of the issues that will reduce the delays and congestion. And then the full implementation of the OSBP, the one-stop border post. We have border posts by name as one-stop border posts, but in actual sense, they don't operate as such. For example, the Tunduma Nakonde border post is a one-stop border post. It was fully commissioned by two presidents from Tanzania and Zambia. But when you look at on the ground, it's non-existent. Hence, the infrastructure development that is happening on the Zambian side. Equally, we have seen a Kasumbalesa border post. On the Zambian side, you have good facility. On the Congo side, good facility. But the actual implementation and enforcement of one-stop border post is non-existent. So with the modernization of Kasumbalesa, we hope that we will see the full implementation, just like we are hoping to see the full implementation of the OSBP on Sakanya and Mokambo. For Chirundu, I think the congestion can be addressed by way of pre-clearing and then probably expansion of the infrastructure on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tembo. We have reached the end of our discussion. There are more questions. It's incredible, but the conversation is ongoing today. We're going to end it there, but I would just like to have just closing remarks from our four speakers, starting with Mr. Emmanuel Nchangase. Just your closing remarks for today's topic. Thanks.
Thanks for the opportunity. In my closing, I'll just follow up on my previous speaker comments around the use of one border post. I think he has narrated correctly what are the problem areas, but if I may add also, it's the biggest problem that we're experiencing in border post clearance is trust between government and qualitative system between the two governments. If we can improve the qualitative system in processing clearance, that will improve trust. And with improved trust, then the one government can trust that the other government has processed the document accurately, fairly, and correct. So that's the area that we should be focusing on. And then lastly, I think in terms of South-North corridor, I think biggest issues is still, we need block trains to have a block train that comes from Durban all the way up to Ndola. That will be a game changer, and we're not seeing that enough. I think trucks on the road, there's still more trucks than the train, and that speaks to the issue of rehabilitation of railway systems and the rest of it. So again, I think it'll be nice for government to be part of this discussion, to really unpack and give us a forward-looking horizons as to what are the plan in place to do the maintenance and the rehabilitations of line, so that it's one system and one block train can move from SA all the way up to Ndola and from Ndola all the way up to Durban. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Basencio Bilanculo, your closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What we need to do has, I used to say, one community, because we are one community. We share cultures, we share business, we share borders, but it seems like very difficult for us to share businesses because we have a lot of barriers that we put to each and other. So we can say that yes, the congestion that we are facing in some points, it's also based on trust issue, but we have a good experience with Zimbabwe. No truck can go. As soon the truck is loaded at the port, we send the pre-clearance documents. The agent must do the pre-clearance and generate the code number that will be given to the driver. So soon the driver is arriving at the border, we just present that number is crossing, and he does the final physical examination, and they proceed because the duties are paid before the cargo arrives at the border. It's something that we can probably see how can we implement in other different borders. We can see also the border of China is very efficient. But if we add that issue of pre-clearance, I think something that can help. And also, we need all of us, Zambians, Zimbabweans, and all who are sharing the corridors, to approach our government officials for them to come to understand what is the real necessary to be done so that business can flow, can be facilitated, because we have some very few differences that, you know, are putting a lot of barriers, but which are not a problem. We have a problem with transporters in terms of the standards, what is being applied in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, what Mozambique does. So we, as also as the private sector, we need to approach the government with very clear points and make them understand so that they can facilitate. The last time that His Excellency President of Zambia came to Mozambique, he was clearly said to all of us, we share borders, but we don't share business. Let's open borders and do business together. We want Zambians to come to Mozambique and do business freely, as well as Mozambican to Zambia and do the same. We have a product that are in Zambia, but you can't get them in Mozambique easily. Same as Mozambique, we have seafood we can't export into. So we need to work closely with the government, work closely with our members to see how can open the market to facilitate the trade between and our community, and also to integrate the systems. If we can do that, to have like one customs clearance system integrated from Mozambique to Zambia, Zimbabwe, using a single platform. So we don't need to, the government, we don't need to be afraid about smuggling, undervaluing. We don't need that. We are putting everything, what's being declared from the port or the border posts, is the same that is going to reach. So there's no way to change in between here. So also emphasizing the security of our corridors is something that we need to address to our leaders, and also contribute on our side what can be done so that we help them, because we need to help them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vilankulo. Mr. Edward John Urio, your closing remarks before we leave. Thank you. Mr. Urio, has he left the room? Okay, then we can move to Mr. Benson Tembo. Just short closing remarks as we close our discussion.
Thank you so much. For us in Zambia, we are excited with what AfCFTA has been doing over the years. The promotion of this conference and the development of the corridors, the transport and logistics in Zambia. Our desire is to see that as Africa is pushing an agenda, we hope to see government transforming such agenda into policy, because it's still through that we are going to actualize and see the benefit of what we discuss. From the Beira corridor, we wish to engage and urge our colleague presenting from Mozambique that in order for us to enhance that development between Zambia and Mozambique, we need to promote the Kasakatiza Tete Beira corridor. Because for us, we believe that once this corridor is properly promoted, we are going to see the full benefit coming to Zambia and full benefit being left in Mozambique. So we need to promote the Beira Kasakatiza Chanida to Zambia route. On the DRC, DRC is a member of the Central Corridor. And the Central Corridor is promoting efficiency, is promoting harmonization. We are paying 1,500% of the SADC prescribed toll fees in Congo DR. And it has been our call that can we harmonize in order for us to increase trade on this corridor. Congo must not always come out smart and introduce fees without notice. So since they are members of the Central Corridor, it is our submission that Congo must be pushed to harmonize. Moreover, today, Congo is the secretariat of the Central Corridor. On the congestions at border posts, we have seen that the people who are running shows at these border posts are runners instead of the licensed clearing agents. So the runners have also participated in the delays because sometimes when they are not paid by the drivers, they keep the documents until their payment is done. When the such cargo has already been paid for. So we need to handle this issue of runners.
Okay.
It is our submission that as we make these discussions with the experts from Mozambique, from Zimbabwe, from Tanzania, South Africa, we want them to interface with us service providers because we believe that contracts are coming through these countries, South Africa, through Mozambique, through Tanzania. Interface with us so that we can introduce our transporters. Let our transporters first have value on the corridor. Unlike what is happening today, where transporters have been relegated to subcontractors, it should not be like that. We need to see the full benefit of these corridors in order for us to participate in the transformation of the transport corridor into economic corridor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tembo. Thank you once again to all of our speakers today, and of course to all of you for joining us this afternoon. We're just going to have some closing remarks from Mr. Chimwemwe Nyirenda on behalf of AfriCast. Mr. Nyirenda, I hope you are ready.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Brilliant. Okay, I'd like to thank all our speakers who are annual participants, the Landlinked Zambia, Mozambique. We look forward to hosting operators from the Beira corridor, as well as Tanzania and South Africa, who make up the most of our participants during the annual event. I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone that has participated today and to rest assured that this event is actually hosted by the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, and you can be guaranteed of their submission and participation at the larger event in April. This is a teaser to the main event, and in our next webinar, we ensure that their availability is actually guaranteed as we move closer to the main event. So besides talking about these transport corridors, we are also looking at other matters affecting the transport and logistics sector when it comes to the African Continental Free Trade Area. We understand that this AfCFTA agreement would drive a 28% increase in intra-African freight demand, which actually translates to 2 million trucks, 100,000 rail wagons, as well as 250 aircraft, and more than 100 vessels by 2030. We'd also like to get into the discussion of transporting minerals out of Zambia and the DRC, and the business and investment opportunities that come with this particular topic along the transport corridors that are being hosted in Zambia. So once again, thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you all at the Ciela in Lusaka in April, and encourage you all to keep giving us your submissions on this and other matters affecting the transport and logistics sector, so that we can engage government, we can bring them to a round table and have some of these issues contribute towards the transport policy that the next edition of the transport policy that they're working on. So thank you very much once again, everyone. We look forward to seeing you at Landlinked on the 10th and 11th of April in Lusaka. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyirenda, there on behalf of AfriCast. Thank you once again to all of you who have joined us this afternoon for our first installment of our webinars leading up to the main event on the 10th and the 11th. If you would like to register for the Landlinked Zambia 2025 conference, the details have been posted in the chat section of this discussion. So please go to the chat. And I see there's also some responses to some of the questions. If you feel that your questions were not answered, you can go and some people have responded as well there. Thank you very much. It's been great to host all of you, and we're looking forward to the next one. Please look out for the next webinar as we continue to have this discussion. Back to you, Mr. Victor.
Well, thank you very much for that, colleagues. I think Paulina deserves more than a round of applause for such a lovely moderation of our session. Thank you all very much. Now, before you go, we have a very important announcement for you. Please stay tuned as we watch the video for the coming Landlinked Zambia 2025. And that should inspire you enough, if you have not registered, to please do so. But more importantly, make sure that you send the link out to all your colleagues to register. So our tech team, please take over with the presentation, the video, after which I'll give you the final announcement. I know we are a bit out of time, but I'm sure we will all be excited about the announcements. Over to you, Tech.
There's a corridor that comes from Mozambique, South Africa, and more corridors from Namibia, Angola, and the DRC. These transport corridors meet in Zambia. Numerous trade and investment opportunities for Zambia and SADC-based companies. April 2025, Landlinked is brought to you by AfriCast in conjunction with Ministry of Transport and Logistics industry stakeholders. Call 0955-92.
Seems we may be having a bit of a challenge there. Let me see if we can go to some plan B scenario from here. And see if we can share that. Sincere apologies. Well, there you have it, colleagues, from the 10th and the 11th of April 2025. Please join us for Landlinked Zambia, and we'll be hoping to see all of you there. There have been hundreds and hundreds of people registering so far and paying to attend with some really wonderful rates. Join us for direct networking among yourselves. We'll have sessions for business to business networking, business to government networking. If you want to create an experience for yourself and your organization when it comes to Landlinked Zambia 2025, please do get in touch with us so that we are able to put something together specially for you. There are a number of associations here, a number of institutions, chambers, etc., that may want to use Landlink as an opportunity to get their own people together. Please contact the Africa's team at the office at africas.zambia.org, and we will be able to get something put together specifically for you. With that said, it's been a pleasure having you here. We look forward to having you at our next webinar sometime in February. We will announce it soon, now that we have your contacts here, and we hope to have many, 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 many more of you. With that said, please put on your videos and say hello and bye-bye to everyone. This is the beginning of our networking, and I think it is an opportunity we can give to all of you just to say hello to somebody here before we wrap up. Cheers. You are allowed to unmute yourself. Oh, wait. Allow participants to unmute themselves. So you are all allowed to unmute yourselves now and to say hello to somebody.
Hello, thank you very much. Guide here from Great Lakes Straits, Beira, Mozambique.